So enabling others to act is such a crucial part of becoming a leader. You know, the personal best cases most people speak most passionately about is really about the teamwork and cooperation of interpersonal routes that they have taken, the people that they've journeyed with, the people that have had impact in their lives, and probably you guys can look back and think of some of those moments in your journey that you've had. And we oftentimes talk about who was around us during those times. What did we do together? What did our team do? And how is it you inspired your team, or how is it people within your team inspired you? So we're always talking about those people around us because they're such a vital organ to the success of our leaders.
We're going to look at some elements of how you create collaboration and foster that as through developing trusting relationships, a climate of trust with the people that you're working with. Also facilitating positive interdependence, which is that reciprocity, working together, supporting each other through face-to-face interaction. And we really are challenged by that, and we want to really begin to step out of our offices more and really have these face-to-face conversations, because it really also then feeds into those other concepts of creating trust and creating rapport, which then will feed into the positive interdependence we have on each other. But you know, in our crazy, chaotic worlds, and I know you guys are right in the middle of those worlds, is that we get very busy. We get caught up with our own jobs and responsibilities, and we don't make time to get up and to have those conversations. And I really want you to make sure we're going to be an advocate of this, and we're going to work towards doing it more than doing it less. Fostering collaboration and being an athlete of my in the past, I always like to bring in examples from teams because we do learn a lot from our athletic teams, and they're easy to pick up on points. But we know that the strength of a team is the individual, and the strength of the individual is the team. And hockey is just a prime example, just one of the many examples we can look at in regards to, you know, it does take the team, but it takes the individual roles and responsibility of everybody doing what they need to do in order to all to come together collaboratively to achieve that goal. You know, we know one person hits the puck to make the goal, but we also know it took 3 other plays before that, and then oftentimes more than not there's another person that assists with that final goal. And so again, it's that collaboration. For a team of people to have positive experiences together, they must share their goals. They must have those conversations that we talked about, and that's what builds the strength of the team, is having those conversations, knowing what our goals are, and how is it that we can work together to capitalize on that. And also, you guys can think about how do you utilize your strengths. When we talk about Gallup and we talk about strength-based leadership, and you are really coaching yourself and developing your own strengths, we also recognize that developing the strengths of those around us and recognizing the strengths of our team is another way to enhance and develop that collaboration. So collaboration, it's that critical competency. We know teams that are successful, we know that they are looking for collaboration for achieving higher goals, outcomes, productivity, whatever it is they're looking for. They are looking at high levels of collaboration among teams that are sustaining and growing high performance teams. So that collaboration component is big. And you know, we don't always talk about it. We talk about teamwork and we throw that word around a lot, but really people don't understand what does that mean and how does that play out for us and what does our team look like. And every team is going to look a little bit different. People that are utilizing the best practices that we talk about and that are award-winning leaders, they never take individual ownership of that leadership, of whatever it is that they've accomplished. They always are saying, it is the team, it is my coworkers, it is the network of individuals that I've surrounded myself with that has brought the strength and that has allowed us to accomplish what we have accomplished. So it is truly a we, not I mentality, and that's a very different focus from even like our educational setting right now, we have a lot of competition in our educational setting for individual performance. And a group mentality is not always rewarded. It is the stronger individual in the group that is often recognized. And being that we are in a learning community, an academic setting, this is also a skill that we want to bring into the classroom, that we want to begin to empower students with, is understanding the strength of the network and collaboration. It is a social imperative. And also, without it, we really will not see those extraordinary things that can be done in organizations and on college campuses. Without it, we are just possibly ordinary, or we get to a level of mediocrity. And so we really want to crack that. We want to go above and beyond it, and we do want to challenge ourselves. And this area is one way that we can do that. So what are some things specifically that we can do? Creating a climate of trust, and again, facilitating that positive interdependence in the face-to-face are 3 researched best practices that will help us empower collaboration in our organization. So let's speak a little bit to each of these and see if you can pick up on 1 or 2 things that you might be able to bring back in practice. Creating the climate of trust. Trust, it does pay off. And I want to, besides the research I have listed for you on this, on the slide here, I also want to share with you another study, and that was a research study that surveyed employees and surveyed managers in regards to the element of trust. And what we found was that people in a power position, whether it be a manager or a boss of some sort, when they were asked, do you feel as if your employees trust you, managers ranked themselves much higher than the employees when the employees were asked, do you trust your manager? So the element of trust can be very deceiving. How do you know if you have trust? What does it look like? But I don't want us to assume we have it just because we know the person, or just because the person is working for you. We can't assume trust exists. Trust actually takes a very long time to establish. It is easily broken and very difficult to repair. So we don't want to assume it's there. I don't want you to assume that this climate of trust exists, and so you're going to move on to another principle. How to create that is that we're looking at being more open about your feelings. And this might, when I say feelings, it makes people a little bit uncomfortable, but this is truly just developing your own self-awareness. We did just have our emotional intelligence survey, where you guys were reflecting on areas of awareness and disclosure that are some of your strengths, and then some areas you want to improve upon. And this is one of those areas that you can look at, being more open with your feelings, whether it be that you're outside of your comfort zone, being able to share that with your people, and the good things too, saying how passionate you are about different projects, different situations that might be coming up. Also, trust allows us to clarify problems, identify goals. It brings us together more quickly. And when teams are brought together based off of a climate of trust, and you guys can think about it, think about a time in which you've been on a team, whether it be an athletic team or within a professional organization, and there really was an element of trust. When you're in and surrounded with that type of atmosphere, it really affords you an opportunity to disclose, and challenge the status quo. This is what we do day in and day out, but hey, is there a way in which we could do it differently? I have now part of a project, and we're learning that another campus is doing it differently. Might we try it that way? So if we don't have that trust, though, we are truly not as open to hear that from other people. And then also, if I don't feel trust, I may not disclose it or share it. I may be just closed off and continue on and going with the same old. So that is one payoff that you can see, and you may have it. That's good if you do, but it is also something that if you feel you have, it does not mean you don't stop working on it, because it is something you work on, continuing to build on day in and day out. So again, being open to influence when you do have that level of trust. We are more open to people bringing us information, and instead of taking it critically, now we're open and trust that that person is bringing us that information to better us, to build us. We hear more, and we are less defensive when we do have that element of trust. And so we're more open to suggestions, to alternative viewpoints, and other people's expertise, rather than feeling as if they're judging or criticizing us. When we trust the person, again, we're more open to that feedback, to those critical conversations. The FedEx was an excellent example of a company that started with opening up a platform of let me hear your ideas, where all the major CEOs, the CEO and all of the people that make decisions for that company opened up the floodgates for new ideas, and they were receptive to them, even though they might have thought about it. They didn't take ownership, and it really grew their business, and it grew a lot of trust too. I know we've had a lot of conversations about FedEx ideas, and we're trying to figure out how to operate or fit these into where you guys are, but truly these FedEx ideas have to be open to an environment where there is trust. Otherwise, the concept is going to be lost. So think about those elements and how that might fit with where you're at. And we know that these are not just sayings, these are not cliches, but we know that trust breeds trust. Trust mobilizes our people, and it truly does promote more of an engaging workforce. It promotes more ownership too, which when we know if we have high levels of engagement and a highly engaged culture at work, we are going to have more people step up to become leaders, more people to take ownership of projects, to create innovative new ways of solving problems. And really what we are striving for, not just in our leadership project, but I believe personally and professionally in our individual journeys, is to really be engaged day in and day out. What is it that I'm bringing to the table? How is it I can up it? How is it that my impact, what type of impact am I having on the next person that's going to have an impact on other people? And holding ourselves accountable to that type of behavior is really what our goal is, and that is embedded in an element of trust in the relationships that we are working with. And last is, and this is hard, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it, but making yourself vulnerable. If you are a leader, or if you are a mentor, or if you are a boss of some sort, and you feel as if trust is an element that you really want to begin to capitalize on because you now know the benefits, making yourself vulnerable is one of those areas where you're going to have to self-disclose some of your personal things. And it's not that you are going to disclose your whole history or anything like that. Part of the journey here to develop trust, a starting point, is that you just begin to disclose a little bit about yourself in little trickles here and there, in small conversations. What do you stand for? And this almost brings us back to our modeling the way and inspire a shared vision, especially inspiring a shared vision, in which I challenged you to look at what your values were and to develop your mission statement. And I really have you guys out there with your mission statements printed on the wall, so that people know where you're invested. They know what your value set is. They know what you stand for. And it goes back to, if I know what I stand for and they know what I stand for, that's very revealing. That is very comforting for people that work with you. But at the same time, it's a strength for people to know that you can be vulnerable, and it's not seen as a weakness. It's actually seen as a strength. But oftentimes there is the mentality out there that people, if I share this information, they will use it against me, or I will become vulnerable because then I might disclose a weakness. And we want to get away from that mentality, because that's truly not what we're seeing if we are in a culture where we're trying to gain the trust of other people.
Trust is a kind of a subjective word, so oftentimes you really have to take time and think about, do I have trust? Do I give away trust? What is trust? How is trust defined, or how do I know when it's there or when it's not there. And so that's kind of a challenging question that I want you guys to think about.
Another way to develop the trust is through listening. And although we think we listen, active listening is actually one of the most difficult skills to acquire, to keep, to practice day in and day out. Again, we're very busy people. We start a conversation and, we're way off in many different HD channels. We've got 5, 7 different things going on in our head. So to truly actively listen is to really turn off all those other channels and to only have one control on your remote, and that control is that one person's channel. We never want to underestimate how sensitive people are when we are having a conversation. Because anything such as my body, my nonverbals, my tone of voice, my lack of eye contact, or my looking at my watch or anything like that sends a message to people that either I'm aggravated, I'm irritated, I don't have time for you. That damages your trust. That damages the rapport that you have in that relationship. So it truly behooves you to take time out and stop and listen to what's going on. If you are unable to have a two-way conversation because of other demands or expectations, absolutely fine to tell that person, let me get back to you when I have the ability to stay focused and we can have a meaningful conversation. That's what they want to hear. That's respectful. That builds trust. Don't be passive and do your head nods and say and walk away and then say, oh my gosh, what did I just do, or what did I just say? I can't remember. So we want to add quality. We want to add your positive attitude. We want to add the honesty in that formula to create that trusting relation. All right, let's look at our interdependence. And I'm not sure how familiar you guys are with this word, but basically it's just coming together, right? It's just creating that community. It's a condition where everybody knows that they cannot succeed unless everybody's working together in collaboration. So again, it's just how all the intricacies play together to form that community that we're looking for. And so many of you are involved in some great, awesome communities out there. So you may have a lot of this interdependency already happening. And that might be the case, but also then I want you to step back and really become more cognizant of how it's happening. Look at people's roles and look at your own role, and when we step back a little bit, we can see the dynamics, and then also see, hey, where are things going well? How are the dynamics working well, and where could we improve upon? What areas could we develop and become stronger? So if, again, don't dismiss it. You may have it. But again, each of these areas have opportunity for growth. I'd like to share this one with you because back in the day, I don't know if you guys are Survivor fans, but back in the day when this show came out and we were doing best practices for leadership, we found so many organizations were using Survivor as a case study in how to be successful in the world of business. Well, ironically enough, and if you guys are familiar, it's a competition, right? It's a competitive show. Talks about petty rivalries, backstabbing, betrayals, tribal councils. There's a hint of romance and relationships. And during the peak of the show, when it was receiving the most audience views, that's when organizations said, wow, maybe Survivor has something that we can learn from. It was troubling because truly Survivor teaches us the wrong message about how to survive in the real world. It is human survival that to endure another day is to be in a group or to be in a community, to rely on the strengths of the community for survival. Oftentimes what organizations do is look for those quick fixes. They look for, okay, this must be the special formula that's going to create extraordinary results. And there are no quick fixes. We are talking about skills that take time to develop, that take investment. We're talking about creating a culture of an organization that has depths, that has the anchor that's going to keep that organization growing and keep it strong. So how do we develop this interdependence? What could be some steps that you can take back to your work team and begin to look at? Again, those cooperative goals and roles, what is the goal of our team and the goal of the organization? A lot of you are going through some major transformation. We want to make sure everybody's understanding what the final goal is and how are we all going to work together. Support those norms of reciprocity we're going to talk about. And then rewarding joint effort. These are 3 practical ways that you can begin to develop that interdependence. So developing your cooperative goals and roles, we want to have shared goals. We want to all have that vision of where we're going and how we're going to get there. But again, that collective purpose is what will bring you together, but also then each person has to know their roles and expectations that is going to help move the team forward. And that's sometimes hard. It's oftentimes if people are unaware, they kind of just sit back and follow, and we don't want that. We want people to be engaged. We want people to be inspired for the collective purpose. So we do want to hear from everybody, and having those conversations with each individual is going to be very important. One thing that we've talked about in coaching is that, especially for some of you that are in a leadership role, that you are having the conversations with people. What do they want to do more of? We talk about their strengths and their passion. What is it, if this is our goal, how is it you want to contribute to that goal? What is it, if you could spend your day doing anything to try to move us closer to that goal, what would it be? And because oftentimes we might have people pigeonholed into doing certain things and they just do those things without challenge. We want to challenge them. So you want to have those conversations in order to develop their roles alongside where their strengths and where their talents are, and most of all, where their passion is. And that's what I challenge you to do. And I know a lot of you are starting that process. It's not normal, but it is a conversation, I think, that will help grow that collaboration and cooperation. To support also the norms of reciprocity, when all people at all levels, reciprocity is the giving back. It's the feeling as if I treat others with respect, then they are going to treat me with respect. It's the giving and the receiving end of it. And sometimes this, again, will take some practice, especially if you're in a culture where you don't always feel it coming back at you. And so therefore you become a little hopeless. Like, why should I continue to give and give and give, and I'm exhausted and tapped out when I'm not getting it back? And I hear that. I hear that as a theme often. And I hold myself to, as a professional, to the ultimate rule that we've talked about, is that I do what is most needed at any given time with it for that company to grow and for me to grow as a professional. So at any given time, I do not hold myself to standards of expectations based off of other people's performance. I hold myself to a higher standard, so that I'm a model and a mentor, and people can tap into how I do things as a leader. Now, I may not hold a leadership role, but observational learning is 90% of our message. So I'm going to hold myself accountable in the hopes that that's going to have that spillover effect, and that's going to be contagious for others to jump on board and begin to hold themselves accountable. We say that people have to live to serve instead of living to be served. And I would strongly agree with taking on a focus of customer service. Now, if you may not hold a title that has customer service, but I truly believe day in and day out, regardless of your job, we are serving others, regardless of your job. Regardless if if I'm doing research, even though that might be a very individually focused, my expectation is to provide the best research for the customers that I'm serving. Or if I'm a mother or a father, my job is to serve that family and serve the individuals within the family to the best of my abilities. Whether it be, I'm a teacher, yes, I'm an educator, but my goal is to serve the students that are in my class and to provide them with the best that I can at the time in which I'm giving the lecture or having the discussion with the student or whatever that looks like. We are customer service, regardless of your title. And if we really begin to embrace the mentality of, I am here to serve, let me know how I could do it. Let me know how I could do it better. Wow, that opens floodgates to really some positive conversations and appreciative conversations that people really feel like, oh my gosh, I don't want to have to ask you for this. I'm so sorry. Absolutely not. Ask me. I'm here to serve you, and let me know how I can help you. So customer service is really, I want you to open the book on it, and I want you to open your heart to it, because I believe when we have that focus and that mentality, it's so much easier to not worry about, what other people are doing, or concerned about who's doing what, or pointing fingers, because, my job is to serve, and I'm going to do the best that I can do. And so I do believe that will give us, or move us into the relationship or the reciprocity that we're looking for. It does take, again, time to develop leadership and the skills that we're talking about. Not something given to you, not something that happens overnight. It is a skill set that we have to practice and grow and develop and tweak. So we know that if we can get there, you guys, there are great results. Reciprocity leads to willingness to cooperate from people that you never even knew were open to it. They're like, oh my gosh, if you just would have asked. Risks of, it minimizes risk of escalation in conversations. When I'm saying, what can I do for you? And I'm saying, how can I better serve you? And the customer comes back and say they're not happy with a product, or they're not happy with something that I've provided for them, but I say, what is it I can do for you? How is it I can make this better? You know what? That person's a little less defensive. That person is more open to, okay, yeah, I wasn't quite happy, but she's willing to make some changes, so I appreciate that. I appreciate that understanding and reciprocity that she wasn't happy. I need to make her happy. What can I do to serve you? Responding in kind, and again, the list goes on there, and ultimately it really does improve communication. And it goes back also then to, if we can develop this skill, it goes back to creating that climate of trust that we are really striving for, not just with our internal customers, which are the people we're working with, but also creating that with our external customers, and it also has a spillover effect for our reputation in the community. So our next area, I know we're going through a lot, so hang in there. You guys are doing a great job. Is rewarding joint effort. And I'm going to kind of back up a little bit here, because let me tell you, organizations are not established to reward joint effort. You are rewarded based off of your evaluation at the end of the year, whatever that looks like. And oftentimes those are written up for individual performance. So how is it then, as a leader or as a dean, that I can take my department and begin to give rewards for joint efforts or for teamwork? I'm going to dispel a couple myths here so that you can feel more comfortable doing some innovative things. But we know, and I've shared this with you before, but money, bonuses, and those types of things, they truly are not internal motivators. They have a very short life in regards to motivation. Approximately 17 days is the lifespan of a bonus motivation or an increase in pay. So truly, when we're looking at rewarding joint efforts, we're not talking monetary. We're talking innovative. We're talking maybe recognition, appreciation rewards. We're talking, can we create like a new program where we have customer service awards, or we do employee recognition awards at staff meetings, and you're rewarding a team for its innovative program that they've come up with. Looking outside of the box, the traditional rewards, and this would be an area where you might want to explore a little bit more and network with some other college campuses to see what is it they are doing out there. How are they doing joint reward programs, team reward programs, department rewards, and recognition? What could that look like? Another little tidbit is that we know people perform at their highest level when they feel appreciated. Taking again pay off of the grid, if you would, if you are paid fairly for the position you do, the highest motivator after that is feeling valued and appreciated, and that can again reinforce this joint effort that we're looking at, growing that level of engagement and enthusiasm. And the last one we talk about is what is so hard because we're so busy, but supporting those face-to-face interactions. And I know, especially with college campuses, you guys are spread out, and oftentimes you are not close to even the people that are directly in your department because you're always on the go, moving around and everything. So I know that this is an element that maybe you have to be a little bit more proactive with, and maybe putting it in your calendar. So sustaining your ongoing interaction. When we do get up and we walk around, you guys, we then have those conversations that we might not have had if we were sitting in our desks, right? We may not have been able to talk about, hey, how is your project going? Or how is your family going or doing? Or your son is, having sports, what's going on? But then it brings us back to the content of, how are you doing here? What can I do for you? Is there anything you need from me? It also can hold people accountable. If I'm going and I'm walking around, if I'm doing management by walking around, I'm going to do some status updates. I'm going to say, how is your project going? What are some deadlines? Is there anything you need from me? And so it holds people accountable. If it is common course that I'm out walking around as their manager, their leader, then they are going to be more open to have conversations when things come up in their projects or problems arise. But at the same point, we can help and grow them, grow their accountability and movement with projects forward. And it's not that I'm not saying that they need their hands held. That's not what I'm saying. But it does help when we feel as if we have that support network. And we have these conversations. Sometimes too, we get stuck, we drag our feet, we get overwhelmed, we get a lot of stuff going on. And if I come up to you and you forgot that, oh yeah, I was supposed to get that to you and I forgot. Hey, gentle reminder that, what can I do? It sounds like you're overwhelmed. Is there anything that I need to be working with for you? Or, anything I need to be doing for you? So that gives it that element of support that we all need, obviously. And frequent interaction between people, they promote positive feelings for each other, which brings us back to developing that collaboration, that trust, and treating each relationship as if it's a lifetime relationship. And really, what I liked about that is the fact that we don't invest a lot sometimes in the relationships at work for fear of turnover or change. We are actually in a culture right now where we don't have a lot of trust for relationships, high divorce rates, the economy is very poor, we are not secure in what's happening in our government. But what I like to do is to treat each relationship as if it's going to be a relationship for life. And that shows the value that I'm investing in you. And yes, we're going to have turnover. Yes, companies may not go, or projects may not go as we'd like, but I do like to, if I'm going to be in the present with a person, and I'm going to be coaching or mentoring or guiding or being a leader of that person, I want to make sure that person knows I'm not in it for the short run. I'm in it until that person is done, or if that person stays or grows or moves on, or whatever that looks like. And there's a different sense. There's going to be a different atmosphere in those conversations than if you take it as the person is just here for short term. I shouldn't really invest too much or give them too much responsibility. So it's kind of a tweak. It's kind of a different way of thinking about those relationships. Really, the effects of engagement is that we are hoping for lower rates of turnover, higher levels of productivity, higher levels, of passion and engagement. So if you're working on engagement, we're hoping one of the outcomes is going to be that you have less turnover and that your good people are staying there, and you're coaching and building and leading them up.
I do sometimes hear, though, that people say, I don't have time, or it's not necessary. At the end of the day, though, taking a little bit of time in the front of a conversation or a relationship or a situation is really going to save time in the end. So if you hear yourself having those conversations in your mind, just stop for a moment and kind of rethink, if you would, and look at the value that the face-to-face might add.
So what can we say about this? 6 degrees of separation. It's not about Kevin Bacon. Nope. It is about the fact that we are all in a very small network. Even though we think we operate very independently, you know, we are linked to a human network. If you guys, I know a lot of you are on LinkedIn. A lot of you may be on some other professional networking organizations. I say go out there and do that. That's going to be your strength. There, you will meet people across the globe that could be possible LinkedIn members. I want you to carve out some time where you're networking and doing something above and beyond what you would normally do. Not just checking your LinkedIn status, but maybe going out there and trying to connect with some people, or sending out some emails, or doing some group conversations with maybe some people in this project, or people that you've been wanting to reach out to but have really not put it in your calendar. Socially and professionally, we need people. And also when we're networking too, it kind of falls into sharing information and resources, and that is something that we are building and growing, is your portfolio of resources and information and your networking relationships. They're big pieces of the puzzle, and if you look at the whole puzzle, it can be overwhelming. But if we take piece by piece and move it into the big picture, then I feel as if it's a little bit more comfortable. It's a little bit, it's easier of a fit, and you can see where it makes sense. So try to do these little things along the way so that you can fit all the pieces together. And again, if we have bad days, our puzzle may not all fit. We might have a couple pieces very strong, hold to those pieces on those bad days, and then on our good days, our puzzle may look a little bit more complete. Learn from those good days. Learning from your days that aren't working for you is your takeaways. You know, what went good today? What am I going to do different tomorrow? And then move those puzzle pieces into the next day. So look at it all, pulling it all together is collaboration. Enabling others to act is the fourth principle of leadership through Kuzny and Posner that we focused on today. And to kind of wrap things up, from the beginning, we talked about when people feel valued for their input and they feel part of the puzzle, we know that we have collaboration. When day-to-day organization, when they have norms of reciprocity, encouraging working together, the give and take of relationships, the sharing of that information, you feel part of the puzzle. When all people are listening to the ideas that are put out there in our FedEx, there's so many, we are active in our listening, we're open to options. Again, a very difficult concept, but something I do believe with practice, day in and day out, you can become better at. Exchanging information, resources, developing the networking relationships, developing your kind of folders of information, knowledge, articles, all of that is going to make you a stronger leader and a resource to your campus of, hey, let's go and talk to Shannon because she's got great information on this, or let's go talk to Amy because I know she did a project over here. So start to develop your reputation too and the resources that you can give to others in your colleges, on your campuses. And so, and recognizing that how you respond to others' requests needs to be positive so that we develop that good relationship, that positive reinforcing relationship where people can come back to us and not feel fear, if you would, that we're going to judge them. They're open to, hey, you know, I'm going to talk to Brooke because I feel like she's a good listener. I feel as if she's going to put me in the right direction, or I'm going to call Karen because, you know, I'm struggling with something. That takes time. That takes collaboration with that person, takes the element of listening, valuing the trust that the person's come to you, and then giving that back to them in a trusting, respectful response.
As leaders to our larger organization, I do want you to be thinking outward. Because when you do walk outside of your team and your department, I do want you to continue to build collaboration by demonstrating the things that we've talked about as far as the trust, you know, the respect, doing unto others as you want done unto yourself, all of those things. So yes, for today we might be seeing it from a smaller perspective. I do want you to embrace a larger perspective, even if others around you are not, because that's what we're creating. That you are the new leadership group. And so we do want to start with you to create this bigger picture and the change that we want to see.
So absolutely, you guys, we cannot do it alone. It is the village that will survive, and we want to create that village on our campuses. We want to create that village within our departments, within our teams, but that's where we're going, and that is what will bring us extraordinary results. Even in times of stress and turmoil, that's what will help us, bind us and bring us success.